and welcome to Affected, a podcast from Meet. For those of you who don't know Meet, we are a global life sciences talent provider. We've been connecting the industry for over a decade, and now we want to share some of our insights and experiences with you. We'll be hosting monthly episodes, sharing thoughts from our leaders and industry professionals about job hunting and hiring in life sciences, as well as giving our network a platform to share their own experiences of building successful careers in an industry that affects us all.
Hi, and welcome to a very, very special episode of the Affected podcast. We are in the amazing Philly podcast space, so huge thank you to you guys for getting us in. We'll drop all their details in the comments and stuff below. But yes, I am out on the East Coast, hence being joined by the wonderful Rachel Hoffman. She is our HR business partner at Meet, and just all-round great human being. And my confidant. Yeah, so we're actually out on the East Coast for the next few days, chatting to some amazing founders, CEOs, and people who are really making waves in what is looking to be a very vibrant Philadelphia life sciences space. So that leads me to introducing Ms. Simone Ammons, who is the founder and CEO of QuneUp. The amazing Dr. T.L.R. Williams put us in touch. And yeah, it's just going to be really nice exploring sort of a couple of life sciences journeys and sort of seeing where the common pitfalls may be in coming through sort of that life sciences network. But thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Could you tell us a little bit about sort of your journey through life sciences and how you kind of ended up at your position now as founder and CEO of QuneUp?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, and thank you to the team here and to Tia for introducing me to you. So background-wise, I'm an engineer. I actually went to school in Texas, so far from here, Texas Tech University, a bachelor's in chemical engineering. I always wanted to get into some bio sort of space. I've always said if I was not an engineer, I think I would have gone to medicine. So but in Texas, it's oil and gas. That's what it is. As an engineer, that's what I did. I loved it. It was great. I got a lot of really good experience, got my feet wet. But I had the opportunity to go back to earn my master's degree in biomedical engineering. And that's when I was able to make the pivot from chemicals and manufacturing over to pharmaceutical manufacturing. So the title I had at the time was process engineer. So think of process, like even the process of even hosting this podcast in a manufacturing plant, an engineer is the one who's like over all of that. I'm in a pharmaceutical plant from after the R&D people release the drug, the therapeutic, the medical device, how do you get it from that idea stage to like production and then out to like patients? That's where we come in. So I did that as a contract engineer for a few years. I was still in Texas at the time. Family-wise, I'd gotten married. We had our first daughter, and I just wanted to be on the East Coast, so we moved to Philly. Philly is a big hub for biotech and life science. And I ended up working at a really large pharmaceutical manufacturing company about 30 minutes outside of the city. I was there for about 2 years, again, as a process engineer. There, it was. I started in 2020, if you can imagine.
Yeah. So it was like unprecedented
March.
time.
Yeah. It was unprecedented the whole way. So March, like 2 weeks after it started, the world shut down.
Yeah.
So whatever normal is, I don't know what that was at that time. But I was there. So I was there for 2 years. It was corporate America. We will get into that into more detail. And then after COVID, though, everything around me collapsed, and I wanted to do something differently. And that's how I ended up on a first entrepreneurial and business ownership journey.
Amazing. Could you tell us a little bit about QuneUp then?
Yeah.
And sort of what was the problem that you saw within the space that made you feel the need to step in and sort of bring something to the space?
Yeah, absolutely. So QuneUp, as a process engineer, when the equipment goes down, we're the ones on call in COVID, right? So nothing ever breaks down between 9 to 5. It's always midnight, it's Friday night, it's Sunday morning, it's off hours. And then when you get to site, that's when you realize the information about that piece of equipment, like a bioreactor, that's where you put all the cells, that's where you grow the insulin, everything that you need for, like, let's say for a diabetes drug. What is the critical information about that piece of equipment is nowhere to be found. Remember, it's 2:00 in the morning, right? So Joe or Bill, whoever had the information is also not here. And so I was like, well, but what was happening, we were spending so much time just tracking this information down. Like, where is it? Who is the manufacturer? When was it installed? Is it calibrated? What can we do? What is the SOPs related to that piece of equipment? And around that time, QR codes had started becoming very, very popular. And I said, well, what if I put this together? So instead of taking a QR code and just going to like a website or to a LinkedIn page, what if we could go to an equipment landing page that had all that information? So a mechanic, electrician could get that information right there at the piece of equipment. They don't have to go back to their office. They don't have to get some Google Drive link that nobody has access to. It's not in a dusty folder somewhere. And just get that information right there. If you have to send it to procurement, they're usually not on the floor, but we're all singing on the same sheet of music, within the organization. And that's where the idea for QuneUp was born. So Q for QR codes. And what we're trying to do is embed all that information into an easily accessible place. A lot of SaaS, software as a service software, is very office driven, I like to say, but the people on the front lines, the operators, the mechanics, the electricians, they need something that's quick, easy, and makes their lives easier. There's not this steep learning curve also added to it. So that was really the idea behind that.
It's amazing. You're removing that sort of the distance between that office and being on the floor, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. How would you say that journey has gone? I mean, it obviously these things take time, and I always find when I chat to some people who work in this space, there's sometimes a little bit of a pull against maybe changing process and doing things in a different way.
Yeah, how honest can I be? How much time do we have?
This is a safe space.
Yeah. It's been challenging. So the statistics are out there. I'm not making this up. As far as funding for people who look like me, women of color, Black women, and in the lives, biotech wasn't as hot as it is now, and so we're a fraction of a percent. Right. So I knew going in, I'd have to be self-funded, bootstrapped. So prior to doing QuneUp, I had started doing what I call technical writing. So I'm one of those weird engineers that really likes to communicate and write and like get the information out there. So I leaned into that with a lot, like think of like going to like how to change your password online. Somebody had to write that down. So in a broad sense, that's what technical writing is. It was very successful because a lot of companies saw the value of having an engineer, so she could talk to their engineers. Oh, and she can write really, really well. So that was very lucrative at the time, and so that's what I used to fund QuneUp. To date, I'm still self-funded. I have won some pitch competitions. I want to give a big shout out to the Philadelphia Department of Commerce, Tempest Carter and Rebecca Grant there, two phenomenal women here who are making access to that funding, that initial pre-seed funding, even accessible to people who look like me. They've been doing a phenomenal job. And through that, not just the funding, but, well, what is a term sheet? What is ARR? What is, like, those terms we just kind of flow through.
Around, right? Yeah.
It's a second language. And part of their investment really into the city is like closing that gap, like I was trying to do, but closing that gap for founders where we can walk into rooms and not just be bewildered by just the terminology, but be fluent in our terminology. So we present better, so that's where I was. Yeah.
I'd like to explore the Philadelphia life sciences space a little bit because, again, Dr. Tia, she is an advocate for Philly. Other than you, Rachel, I don't think I've met anyone more Philly. It must be really nice to follow a sports team that's actually good. I'm a Chicago Bears fan. I don't think we've seen a parade since 85, 86. So this Philadelphia as a hub feels sort of on the precipice of having that ability to really becoming a center of biotech, of pharma. As someone who's in it and sort of living it day to day, and maybe dealing with some of the successes as well as dealing with some of the more difficult aspects of that, how do you find the Philadelphia space?
I mean, it's even like we got married in Texas, and we wanted, because I wanted to get into biomedical, that pharmaceutical field. Philly was already attractive to me then. That was 2015, 2016, so years ago, and that was for a job security. The pharmaceutical hubs, there's so many GSKs here, AstraZeneca, like they all have a presence, if not directly in Philadelphia, but the surrounding like areas from Maryland all the way to New York. And so being on the Eastern Seaboard meant I was employable. Like there was always an opportunity to be. So now that's Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies. After leaving corporate America, the next space, the entrepreneurial space, was maybe not as polished, as I would say, compared to like you go to Maryland, you go to New York. I know you all have a presence there. It just seemed to still be evolving in that sense. And of course, you probably heard about Spark Therapeutics.
Yes.
That was one of the big wins here in the city, which was a big win for so many reasons. Like coming out of Penn, coming out of university, development is not just a black hole, but we actually creating and designing things that are commercially available. So it's been interesting to navigate the entrepreneurial waters of Philadelphia. Philadelphia tends to like Philadelphia, so I'm an outsider in many respects of that term, and so I've had to engage with different Department of Commerce, with chambers of commerce. I'm with the African American Chamber of Commerce. There's different biotech symposiums and different groups and non-profits, and you kind of have to put yourself in, because if you're not seen or not known, you're kind of invisible. I
got you.
It's a lot of like working uphill to kind of be seen here. But coming a few years later, and COVID, wiped everybody out. Entrepreneurial probably took the biggest hit. Coming out of COVID and the push from the pandemic, I know it's still around, but the height of the pandemic, there was a renewed interest and infusion of attention, money, cash, resources into the ecosystem, which I have felt is reverberated throughout the entrepreneurs themselves. But it's still growing, I would say. The funding aspect, I would say, is the most challenging, not even just for people that look like me, but I've heard from other like more established founders who've had to unfortunately go outside of the city to seek that first big check, that check that kind of transforms them from fledgling startup to like full, like a full working startup. So it's been challenging. It's been challenging.
I will say that's one of the really interesting things, especially about working in this space, was after the pandemic.
Right.
Was the awareness people had that they didn't have about the world of life sciences prior to it, and just sort of that base level understanding of, oh wow, okay, so I know what a CRO is now. I know what's happening within that pharmaceutical space because I've needed it.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
I'd like to talk a little bit about maybe some of the challenges you've had as a person of color and as a female leader. Has that journey been as smooth as it possibly could have been? Otherwise, do you think?
I think maybe some other entrepreneurs have been in their journey longer than I've been.
Yeah.
I started QuneUp 2023, so 2 years in, 2.5, 3 years. But when I entered, I'd already had a 15-year career in corporate. So I joked, but I was already tired and exhausted. I was like, oh, there's more stuff to do over here. So maybe for people who are, entrepreneurship is kind of jumping off the cliff, like a little bit naive. But I wasn't, because I knew what corporate felt like, So I was maybe more jaded than most, maybe more, like I've seen this song before.
Yeah.
It's just in a different tune, So maybe in a sense too, I could say was probably maybe more prepared, because I knew what some of the obstacles I had to overcome. It was fun. I was listening to a podcast coming over here, and she said it so well. It's, you have to prove that you belong in this space first, not because you're like niche and you're like Philly, life science, this I belong in this space because I look the way that I look. It shouldn't matter, but it does. And so I found a lot of times I did it. I had to throw myself into a lot of activities and be very, very, very hyper visible, or else people are like, I don't know you. You know, even I had a master's degree in engineering, I had a bachelor's degree in engineering, I had 15 years of experience. I have this new company, I'm self-funded, I'm not begging for a check. I'm like, I need a partner, I need, some other funding. I'm not asking for a handout, but it was still this mental work, psychological work to like be seen in the right way.
Yeah.
You have to be really intentional
Yes.
about like exactly what you're doing
Yes.
to get yourself in that space in front of
Yes.
people. Yeah.
Yes, like, before we started recording, we were like fixing our hair, like fixing our clothes. It's the equivalent of that, but in a space where this feels familiar. The resistance feels familiar. What can I do to sort of lower the resistance? Where can I show up? Like, I started doing like little, not as big as this beautiful space we have here, but little mini like videos, like so people know who I am, like where I'm coming from. I am really an expert in this. What I'm talking about is not just, I just had a bright idea, so.
I think what's also really important there is, I think for every time that we do things like this, and yes, this is an opportunity for people to get to know you as a creator and as a CEO and founder, but it's another opportunity for a young person of color, female person of color, to see someone in that space succeeding. I think it's so important to be able to see people who look like you doing the things that you want to do and succeeding, maybe in spite of the challenges that people will put in front of them during their career.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take Dr. Tia. I stalked her. Like, if you're watching this, I'm sorry, Tia, but we were at a Chamber of Commerce event. I was telling my husband, I have to talk to her. I'd heard about her. She had actually given a talk when I was still in pharma as an engineer. It was like a Black History Month or Women's History Month event, and she had given a talk, and I was like, wait, she exists? No way! And I was just blown away. So when I had the opportunity to meet her in person, I was like, beeline. And so her existence she may not know this, but it empowered me to like, oh, I can step out of corporate and do it the way I would have liked it to have been done when I was in corporate. And then as a personal, really get into pharma, I've always gone back to the high schoolers, gone back to middle schoolers. Like, I do it all the time. Like, one of the companies I worked with, they had a partnership with the Franklin Institute. There was the Science in the Summer program. I would try to like spearhead some of that, giving talks. Just people, sometimes half of the work is just showing up and somebody just seeing like what I'm saying.
It's so important. I worked in the film industry for a long time, and sort of Asian representation is pretty slim there. But the moment you see someone who is succeeding, you just feel that like, okay, it can be done. It's not impossible. There is the ability for me to go and change my industry for the better. Exactly. And the more people who do that, the easier it gets as we step down a generation and generation and generation. Exactly. We talk an awful lot about allyship at Meet, and it's something that we're talking about now. It'd be cool for you to sort of talk about maybe some of the work that we're doing in that space, and sort of I feel like it's education. Sometimes we need to be better educated. We have all the tools at our disposal to be educated on these issues.
Yeah, I think we have all the tools. We were just talking about this earlier before we started about, it seems like we have all the tools at our disposal, but sometimes have that difficulty of like bringing that into our workspace. And I think what we're trying to do is really educate our population, our employees, on also just being an ally in recruitment, but also what does allyship look in the life sciences space. And I think it'd be interesting to hear from you, like, your take on like what you would say allyship looks like in life sciences, what allyship looks like for you as a woman of color in the space. What does that look like?
I think that word allyship gets thrown around a lot, and maybe the people most affected by it aren't centered as much in that conversation. If you're asking a question, it's probably because it's not working. So I think the answer lies in re-centering or centering for the first time those voices, and they're not anecdotes, they're not one-off stories. It's just we dare to say it out loud, maybe because and some people can't because they have mortgages and families and you just kind of put up with it. So their silence does not mean it's not happening to them. It just means they have other obligations that one-to-one will come into conflict with that. So I think the conversation starts there, just not taking it for granted that just because one or two people are saying it, that it's not a bigger, systematic issue. And then just, I mean, with the mere fact we're having this conversation is a form of allyship, because you're asking, you're not, well, I think we should, blah. It's like, did you ask like this? Like, I'm a mom too. Like, how does this intersect? Like, and the intersectionality, like before you were talking about, it's gender, it's race, it's sexuality, it's you have kids at home, you don't have, you're a man, you're a woman, you're like all of those things play together. They're not, well, today I'm gonna be black and tomorrow I'll be a woman. Okay, everybody, so it's having those real conversations and how those intersectionalities amplify sometimes, and a lot of those like biases, and then forming a strategy and a plan where, well, where is this not happening? Which group is not saying the same thing? Or which group seems it's so much easier for them to get to the same levels of success? Well, what are the hoops they're not having to jump through, and start there? It could be the simple thing like, as a working mom, do I have to ask for a lactation room? Something small. But for me, like at the time, I was like, wait, you'll have one? I don't have to ask him. It's not this awkward conversation, and then now that we know better, do better,
Yeah.
I think that plays into a lot of other conversations we're having about, like, we are a younger company, but having a lot of people that are starting to have families and, trying to be one step ahead, like you said, not having to ask, what do you need, but being able to be there and have that for you anyhow. Yeah.
Exactly.
And just having an open line of communication so that, you feel like you have that support.
Exactly.
When you're out or when you're coming back from leave.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's no answer, right? That's the thing. We can't just say, I've got it. We fixed it. Like it doesn't exist. I think it's all about conversations, right?
Yeah.
And understanding sort of like where we focus those conversations to be, and whose voices we listen to in those moments. I'd like to talk about the future, which feels like a big thing. We are living in probably the most unprecedented times. At some point in my lifetime, I'd like to live in a precedented.
Call me when you get there.
Yeah. Obviously, the geopolitical landscape at the moment is in a huge state of flux, but that doesn't mean that we can't see successes with our own businesses. So I'd love to see and hear what you feel sort of the future of QuneUp is, and what that looks like for you, and sort of QuneUp moving forward.
Yeah, for sure. I think as an engineer, like science, like the sky is blue. Scientifically, light diffracts, that we can get into it, but it's always when we wake up, the sky. So like there's some consistency and some things that are just not going to change based on emotions or people's like even lived experiences. So I what I like about, like you said, the unprecedented age is like sort of a return to like fundamental science. Like we're seeing AI, but we're also seeing, well, where is this data coming from? Just like we saw in the music industry, you said you worked in the film industry. Like, don't use my voice, don't use the presence I've spent years to build. Don't just take it and co-opt it, right? I know that's why we're going to resonate with you. So in science and back to Tia, like Heloplex, like they used the ovarian cancer cells from Henrietta Lacks, and they said that's probably what made microbiology move forward so much. How are we making sure that we're going back to the creators, of those institutions and saying we're putting that power back? Moving forward, I think we should take that and take the energy. You talked about COVID, the sort of people understood what PPE was for the first time, or vaccines, made, and different things. It warms my heart. But let's return to that energy. Of course, the darkness of that time, right? We're not gonna just gloss over that. But what came out of it was this renewed sense of like this togetherness. Like we all need to protect each other, because we all together as a human race together need to like survive on this earth together, And so looking forward, I'm very optimistic. I think there's some cracks coming through. I think we see them. I see we see the people holding out and saying, not that we're not going to change, but we're going to go back to what's fundamental, like what makes us human at the end of the day. Like we're here, we're not avatars right now. So why? Why was that important to like meet in person and do this? It's still important because we're still human. So I think channeling that human interaction, like what makes this more authentic than just calling me on the phone, or even, I mean, and I love Zoom too, I love, but what about this makes this more palpable, more reachable, more, that story gets like more vibrant because we're here in person sharing 100%. This like time together. I think that will be the inflection point, like for not just my company, but for others like me who want to like take that step forward.
It's so funny, isn't it? We recently held our first ever in-person event, which Dr. Tia was the keynote at, and the main thing that people were saying was, I miss being around people. I miss just going for a coffee, having a drink, talking about the issues that I have, the issues you have, not being disconnected by a screen, but so I can see the whites of someone's eyes and talk about the stuff that's really important to us.
Not having to Zoom call you and I just want to have a chat.
Listen, if I could fly out to New York every time that I needed to grumble about something, Rach, you know I would be here. I think you get sick of me, actually.
Never.
I always like to end these conversations with a question, and it can be kind of a tricky one, but if you could go and give someone some advice who is starting this journey, one key piece of advice to get them on the right track, maybe not even get them on the right track, but to put their mindset in the right place, what would that piece of advice be?
I would say never stop learning. Not because I have, multiple degrees, but this business thing, this entrepreneurship thing was a new university experience. And it's not just, and the information is there, right? The information is out there. It's on your cell phone, it's on your laptop. But the ability and the willingness to learn what it is it takes to become a business owner, entrepreneur in this digital age, this very visible, social media driven age, as opposed to maybe even 5 years ago, what the landscape looked like, I think that would be that deciding factor. So never stop learning. And if you learned it, and you didn't have to like pay for it, then
even better.
Consider that a good learning experience. Win. Yeah, exactly.
And Rachel, a bit of advice from you. What is the best thing to do in Philadelphia today?
Eat a cheesesteak. That's what we're going to do after this.
Of course.
So we were talking about getting a proper cheesesteak. Our producer friend of mine is here as well, and we were baffled to hear that there are levels of cheesesteak that we need to sort of experience.
Well, it just depends on the roll, a seated roll, what kind of do you want? Do you want whiz? Do you want widow it out? Do you want Cooper? Like, the opportunities are endless.
I feel a little overwhelmed.
Which is true.
Listen, I would love to I just want to thank you so much, Simone, for being here. I think for someone like yourself to take the time to come and chat to us is really important. It means a lot to not only us at Meet, but I do feel to our community as well. We were talking earlier about sort of the size of our community now, 620,000 people. That keeps going up, Glenn. I'm expecting some kind of kickback. I'm just don't be the one to throw that out there now.
No pressure.
No pressure, Glenn. But we really pride ourselves at Meet at sort of listening to our community and sort of putting their voices, your voices, at the forefront of everything we do. So it really does mean a lot to us, and hopefully we'll get to do some more work with you guys in the future. I'd love to learn more about QuneUp and sort of maybe take the opportunity to platform the work that you guys are doing and sort
Absolutely.
of making engineers' lives easier, because I can imagine they can be quite difficult existences in the first place.
For sure.
That's amazing. I'd love to give one last shout out to the Philadelphia podcast space. I don't know if you can see that sign, but it's a really cool sign up there. You guys really came to the rescue for us when we were looking for a podcast space in Philly. So we're hosting a few podcasts here, so this won't be the last time you see these chairs and sofas. So thank you to you guys as well. But please join us next month for another episode of the Affected Podcast, where we'll be hearing from more creators, CEOs, founders within the Philadelphia area. And hopefully together we can make this space something really, really special. And it'd be really, really cool for us to play like 1.00% of a part of that. So thank you for allowing us into your space, and we're so excited to see what the next 5 years look like.
Thank you.
Amazing.
You so much.
Thank you.
Cool. We'll see you next time. Thank you.